Every morning in January, in one of the largest cities in North America, 500,000 people vanish. They step out of apartment towers, hotels, and train stations, and they don't walk down the street. They walk under it. They descend into a labyrinth of tunnels, corridors, plazas, and glass-roofed atriums that stretches for more than 32 kilometers beneath downtown Montreal. Down there, they go to work. They go to university. They shop, eat, watch films, attend concerts, visit the dentist, and cheer at hockey games. Some of them will not feel outdoor air on their skin for days. This is not a bunker. It is not a relic of war, and it was never built for one. It is something far stranger. A second city, hiding in plain sight beneath the first. A place so vast that the people who use it every day have never seen all of it, and so quietly woven into daily life that most Montrealers don't think of it as remarkable at all. But here is the part almost nobody knows. This underground world was never supposed to exist. It began as an accident of geography, a scar in the heart of the city, and the stubborn vision of one man who believed streets themselves were obsolete. And buried deeper still, below the shops, below the trains, below the lowest tunnels, flows something the city tried to erase from its memory entirely. To understand why an entire metropolis learned to live underground, you first have to understand what it feels like to stand on a Montreal street in the middle of winter. Picture it. It's late January, 8 in the morning, and the sun hasn't fully committed to rising. The temperature is minus 23 degrees Celsius. With the wind funneling down Boulevard René Lévesque between the towers, it feels like minus 35. The snowbanks lining the sidewalk stand taller than the parked cars they've swallowed. Your breath freezes on your scarf in a crust of white. Exposed skin begins to sting in under a minute. The city is beautiful, almost violently beautiful, all blue shadow and golden window light, but it is not negotiable. Montreal receives over 2 meters of snow in an average winter, and endures roughly 150 days a year below freezing. This is a major global city with the climate of a subarctic outpost. And then you notice something odd about the street. For a downtown of nearly 2 million people in the metropolitan area, the sidewalks are strangely quiet. Where is everyone? They're beneath your feet. Step through the doors of almost any major building in the city center, a bank tower, a department store, a hotel lobby, and find the escalator going down. The cold dies instantly, the light changes, and suddenly, you're standing in a wide, warm corridor lined with cafes, where thousands of people in unzipped coats stream past in both directions, carrying coffee, talking on phones, completely indifferent to the fact that a lethal wind chill is howling 3 meters above their heads. Locals call it the RÉSO, a play on réseau, the French word for network. Foreigners call it the Underground City. Neither name quite captures what it actually is, and the truth behind how it came to exist is stranger than either. Because this didn't begin as a plan to escape winter. It began with a wound. For decades in the early 20th century, the heart of downtown Montreal was disfigured by an enormous open pit, a raw, smoking trench, 3 blocks long, where Canadian National Railway trains rumbled in and out of a tunnel, bored straight through Mount Royal, the mountain that gives the city its name. Locals knew it simply as the Hole. It sat there for nearly half a century, an embarrassment in the middle of the country's then largest city, too expensive to fill, too valuable to abandon. Then, in the late 1950s, the railway hired an ambitious developer named William Zeckendorf to do something nobody had managed: build over the hole without closing the railway beneath it. The result, completed in 1962, was Place Ville Marie, a gleaming cruciform skyscraper designed by the firm of a young architect named E.F.M.P., who would later create the glass pyramid of the Louvre. But the tower was only half the idea. Beneath it, where the trench had been, the builders created something North America had never really seen: a vast climate-controlled shopping promenade, buried below street level, connected directly by tunnel to the city's central railway station and the Grand Queen Elizabeth Hotel. For the first time, a Montrealer could step off a train, check into a hotel, buy a suit, and eat dinner in the depths of February, without once stepping outside. It might have ended there. One building, one tunnel, one clever solution to one ugly pit. What turned it into an underground city was a man most people have never heard of. and a deadline the city couldn't miss. His name was Vincent Ponte, a Harvard-trained urban planner with slicked hair, immaculate suits, and an idea he preached with the fervor of a missionary. The street, he argued, was a failed technology. Cars, pedestrians, deliveries, and weather were all fighting for the same narrow strip of ground, and everyone was losing. His solution was to stop thinking of cities as flat. Stack them. Put vehicles on one level, pedestrians on another, trains on a third, a city in 3 dimensions, where the ground floor was merely one layer among many. He liked to call himself the only practitioner of multi-level cities on the continent. In most cities, Ponte's ideas would have remained drawings. In 1960s Montreal, 2 colossal forces collided to make them real. The first was the metro. In 1966, the city opened a subway system unlike anything else in North America. Trains running on rubber tires, nearly silent, modeled on Paris but bolder. And because Montreal's planners had watched what brutal winters did to outdoor transit, they made a radical decision. The entire system would live underground, with every station designed by a different architect, filled with commissioned artworks, stained glass, and murals. The metro wasn't just transportation, it was the spine of a subterranean civilization waiting to grow. The second force arrived 1 year later. Expo 67, the World's Fair that put Montreal on the global stage and flooded it with 50 million visitors. Construction money poured into downtown, and every new tower, every bank headquarters, every hotel, every shopping complex wanted what Place Ville Marie had, a direct heated connection to the trains below. Developers discovered something remarkable. Underground retail space connected to the network didn't just survive. It commanded some of the highest rents in the city. Pedestrian traffic below ground in winter could exceed traffic on the sidewalks above. So the tunnels multiplied, not according to a master plan, but deal by deal, building by building, each owner negotiating with neighbors in the city to link basements together. Decade after decade, the network crept outward like roots under frozen soil. And this is the first thing about the RÉSO that almost no visitor understands. It isn't really a city project at all. There is no single owner. No central authority built it. What feels like one continuous underground city is actually dozens of privately owned basements, lobbies, and shopping concourses, stitched together by agreements and tunnels under public streets, a city assembled the way a quilt is sewn, patch by patch, over 60 years. Now when you walk its full length, you cross invisible property lines every few hundred meters, passing from one owner's territory to another without ever noticing. The numbers it eventually reached are difficult to believe. More than 32 kilometers of pedestrian routes, around 12 square kilometers of downtown connected, 10 metro stations, 2 commuter rail hubs, and a regional bus terminal woven directly into the web. Some 2,000 shops, hundreds of restaurants, 17 museums and exhibition spaces, universities, cinemas, concert halls, condominium towers, and roughly 80% of all the office space in the downtown core. On a cold weekday, an estimated 500,000 people move through it, more than the entire population of many world capitals, all of them invisible from the street. Yet the strangest thing about the RÉSO isn't its size, it's what it does to the rhythm of human life. Talk to Montrealers and you hear the same confessions, half proud and half sheepish. The office worker who realizes on a Thursday that she hasn't been outdoors since Sunday. Her condo tower connects to the metro connects to her office, the office connects to the food court, the gym, the pharmacy, the SAQ liquor store, the McGill student who chooses his apartment specifically for tunnel access, the way students elsewhere choose for sunlight, the retirees who do their daily walking laps through the corridors of Complexe Desjardins the way Floridians walk shopping malls. Except here, the alternative outside could cause frostbite. There are people in this city who attend a symphony at Place des Arts, a Canadian hockey game at the Bell Centre, university lectures, and a doctor's appointment in the same week, in the depths of winter, in light indoor clothing, without ever once putting on boots. But spend a few days down there yourself, and you start to notice the subtler things. The details that reveal this is not simply a giant shopping mall, but something closer to an organism with its own ecology. You notice the microclimates, the dry bread-scented warmth near the bakeries of Central Station, the cool, echoing vault of the metro platforms, stirred by the soft whoosh of rubber tires. A sound so distinctive that Montrealers abroad say they can identify their hometown subway, blindfolded. The sudden cathedral brightness where the tunnels rise into glass atriums and winter sunlight pours down from above. And you remember, with a small shock, that there is a sky. You notice the art. Because the metro was conceived in the optimistic blaze of the 1960s, its builders treated stations not as infrastructure but as galleries. And the result is one of the largest collections of public art in the country, hidden entirely underground. At Champ de Mars, a wall of stained glass by Marcel Ferron floods the platform with colored light on sunny days, like a modernist cathedral for commuters. Other stations hold vast murals, sculptures, circles of bronze. Hundreds of thousands of people pass these works daily, most without slowing down, which might be the most Montreal detail of all. A city so accustomed to its buried treasures that it forgets to look at them. You notice the navigation problem. The RÉSO is famously, almost comically disorienting. Corridors bend to follow property lines rather than streets. Levels split and merge without warning. 2 points 100 meters apart on the surface might require a 15-minute underground journey involving 3 escalators and a department store. Locals develop personal mental maps through the Eaton Center, down past the fountain, left at the dumpling place, and take quiet pride in routes that tourists could never reconstruct. There are Montrealers who have used the network daily for 30 years and still discover corridors they never knew existed. And you notice who else seeks shelter there. Because when the temperature outside can kill, the underground city becomes something its developers never advertised, a refuge of last resort. Every winter, some of Montreal's homeless population drifts into the warm corridors and metro entrances. And every winter, the city wrestles with the same uneasy question. What does it mean when survival itself depends on spaces that are technically private property, and with closing hours and security guards? The tunnels that shield commuters from the cold close their doors at night, and the debate over who the underground city is for has never fully been resolved. It is a reminder that this marvel of engineering is also a mirror, reflecting the city's conscience back at itself. Then, in January 1998, the underground city faced the test it had unknowingly been built for. That month, a freak weather system stalled over southern Quebec and rained ice, not snow, but freezing rain, for 5 days straight. The Great Ice Storm of 1998 coated everything in up to 100 millimeters of solid ice. Trees exploded under the weight. More than 1,000 electrical pylons and tens of thousands of utility poles crumpled like paper. Millions of people lost power, some for over a month, in the deadliest stretch of winter. The surface city was paralyzed, but beneath the streets, the spine held. The metro, drawing power from its own protected grid, kept running. The tunnels stayed warm and lit, while the world above turned to glass. For many downtown residents, the underground network became exactly what Vincent Ponte had imagined decades earlier, though even he had framed it as convenience rather than survival. A parallel city, indifferent to whatever the sky decided to do. Here, though, the story takes a twist, because Ponte's grand idea, the one that worked so well in Montreal, went on to fail spectacularly somewhere else. And the reason it failed reveals the hidden genius of what Montreal built. In the 1960s and 70s, flush with fame from Montreal, Ponte sold the same vision to Dallas, Texas. The city built its own network of climate-controlled pedestrian tunnels to escape the brutal summer heat, and it worked too well. Office workers vanished underground, and the street life of downtown Dallas began to die. Shops at sidewalk level closed. The streets emptied, felt unsafe, and emptied further. Decades later, a Dallas mayor publicly declared the tunnel system a mistake, and urban planners now cite it as a textbook case of how to kill a downtown. So why did the same idea hollow out Dallas and save Montreal? The answer is the very thing the tunnels were built to escape: the seasons. Montreal's underground city is not a replacement for the street. It is a winter organ, like the burrow of an animal that hibernates. For 5 or 6 brutal months, the city's bloodstream flows below ground. Then spring arrives, and something almost ceremonial happens. Montrealers erupt onto the surface with a hunger for outdoor life. Few cities can match. The terraces spill onto sidewalks, entire streets closed to cars for festivals. The same population that spent February underground spends Julys living outdoors, with an intensity that borders on defiance. The underground city didn't kill Montreal's streets. By absorbing winter, it may have helped preserve the city's love affair with them. A city that breathes, inward in winter, outward in summer. There is arguably nothing else quite like it on Earth. Tokyo has bigger underground malls. Helsinki carved bunkers and pools into bedrock. Toronto's path network is longer in raw retail terms, but no other underground system is so completely fused with the daily metabolism of its city, its trains, its universities, its concert halls, its homes, that hundreds of thousands of lives flow through it as naturally as blood through a vein. And yet, for all its scale, the RÉSO is still not the deepest secret beneath these streets. Because below the tunnels, below the metro lines, below the lowest parking levels, there is water moving in the dark. Centuries ago, the island of Montreal was laced with rivers. The largest of them, the Rivière Saint-Pierre, wound through what is now downtown, fed by streams running off Mount Royal. Indigenous peoples lived along its banks long before the French founded the missionary settlement of Ville-Marie in 1642. But as the city grew, the river became a dumping ground, then a health hazard, and so, piece by piece through the 1800s, Montreal did something cities across the world were doing to their inconvenient rivers. It buried them alive. The Saint-Pierre was funneled into stone and brick collector sewers and entombed beneath the expanding streets. Maps stopped showing it. Generations grew up never knowing it existed. It is still down there. Sections of the old riverbed still carry water through vaulted 19th-century tunnels beneath the modern city, a ghost river flowing in permanent darkness below the underground city itself. Urban explorers who have descended into those passages describe the eerie sensation of standing in a hand-built stone vault, listening to water that has been flowing in blackness since before Canada was a country, while somewhere far above, escalators hum and crowds drift past shop windows. Stop and hold that image for a moment because it captures something profound about this place. Montreal is not one city, it is a stack of cities. At the top, the surface, church spires, snow, festivals, traffic. Beneath it, the human layer, 32 kilometers of warm, bright corridors carrying 500,000 lives a day. And beneath that, the forgotten layer, buried rivers whispering through Victorian stonework, the original landscape of the island, erased but never gone. 3 worlds, layered like geological strata, each one built because of what the world above it could not provide. In the end, that is the real story of the RÉSO. We tend to imagine that cities are shaped by ambition, by money, by visionaries with blueprints. And Montreal had all of those, the railway barons, the architects, Vincent Ponte, and his 3-dimensional dreams. But the deepest force at work here was older and simpler than any of them. Weather. A climate severe enough to threaten life rewired an entire metropolis, pushing it downward the way frost pushes roots deep, until the city quietly grew a second self below the first. Most cities fight their climate. Montreal absorbed its climate into its very anatomy, and in doing so, built something that no master plan could have designed. A place where winter, the great enemy, became the architect. So the next time you see a photograph of Montreal in January, the empty white streets, the muffled silence, the city that seems to be sleeping under the snow, remember that what you're seeing is an illusion. The city isn't sleeping. It has simply gone below, where it is warm and bright and crowded and alive, flowing through tunnels its own citizens have never fully mapped, above a river most of them have never heard of. Which leaves just one question, and I'd genuinely love to know your answer in the comments. Could you live like this? Could you spend an entire winter in a city beneath a city, weeks at a time without open sky? Or would you, no matter how cold it got, still need to feel the outside air? If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves discovering extraordinary places. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.